Hogue, the author of How to Get a Bachelor's Degree with Little to No Debt, a book that provides practical strategies for parents and students as the students prepare to attend college. It also provides a great resource for guidance counselors as they help students to attend college. Today, I have a guest with me, Ms. Magda Charisma, and we're going to talk about how bankruptcy could impact millennials. Now, to get started, I'm going to give a brief introduction of who she is, and then we're going to go into dialogue. So Magna graduated college at the age of 19. She has been actively working to help low-income children and families rise out of poverty and into opportunity. Magna has served her community as a classroom teacher, children's rights advocate, political analyst, education consultant, lobbyist, and attorney. Currently, she works as an attorney to help working class people get out of debt and gain a fresh start and build wealth through real estate. Specifically, Magna represents clients in Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcies, loan modifications, and real estate transactions. Please help me welcome my guest, Ms. Magna Charisma. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Thank you. So we're going to talk today about how bankruptcy could impact millennials. But to get started, all right. It says here that you graduated college at the age of 19. Tell me a little bit, like, how are you able to graduate college at 19?
I took a lot of dual credit courses while I was in high school, and that really helped me to graduate college a bit early.
Oh, really? And did you know at such a young age what you wanted to major in or study once you got to school?
I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to major in when I got to school, but I knew the importance of a college degree. My mother instilled that in me. So I made sure I stayed focused throughout the college process.
All right. That's great. So since you were in college, my whole platform is about getting a bachelor's degree without a lot of debt. There's so many credit card offers to students on a college campus. In most cases, students don't know much about credit. Were you, or did you fall into any of those traps at a young age?
I think I didn't fall into any of those major credit card traps early on for me, because I really took advantage of the work study program, and work study gave me the little cash that I needed, etc. I know I saw a lot of times on campus different people offering credit card promotions, and they would offer credit card promotions. To sign up for a credit card, you get a free shirt or a sandwich to try to lure students into them. And I think it's risky for students now. But what really helped me out a lot without amassing debt in college was the work study program and taking advantage of that.
Oh, wow. That's great. So you were able to get the cash from work study and then provide for a little miscellaneous items or toiletries and things of that nature that you needed while you're in school.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And were you good with managing the work study money, or did you find yourself running out of money a lot, or how did that go?
I did really well with work study. I was fortunate to take advantage of different scholarships, and I was fortunate enough to go throughout my entire undergrad without any debt because of scholarships and being proactive about that. And whatever kind of miscellaneous items I needed, the work study just kind of compensated.
Oh, wow. So what was your major in college?
My major was political science and African studies.
Oh, and did that lead you into why you decided to go in? Well, how did you get into bankruptcy, I should say?
Well, that's a really long story about how I got into bankruptcy. Right out of college, I really, really wanted to give back to my community. Okay. And I taught for a number of years because I wanted to give back to my community.
Oh, wow. Okay. So after teaching, then did that, I guess, evolve into, because you did go and get a law degree. So did that kind of, with the political background, did that evolve into you want to go more until it says that you was a children's rights advocate, an education consultant? Did all that kind of tie into maybe what you studied in undergrad and then deciding to get your law degree?
What I saw in the classroom, because I always taught in low-income communities, I wanted to be able to do more for those communities, and I felt like going to law school would give me the tools that I needed to help advocate for those communities.
Okay, great. So how did that transition into bankruptcy then?
It transitioned into bankruptcy because I realized that it's not just children who are suffering, it's their families that are suffering. And I felt like bankruptcy gave me a pathway to help elevate families. A lot of times families are struggling with managing funds, and because of that, their children suffer.
Oh, wow. So can you explain for me just a little bit about what is Chapter 7 bankruptcy and what is Chapter 13 bankruptcy?
So Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a total liquidation bankruptcy. What pretty much happens there is that if someone is swimming in a ton of debt and can't catch their breath, depending on their income and other factors, they can qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, meaning that they can have pretty much all of their debt, pretty much all of their debt wiped off, and they get a fresh start.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the pros and some of the cons of bankruptcy? What are some of the fears, too, that people have about bankruptcy?
A lot of time, I feel like people really worry about the stigma. They're already swimming in debt, and they're worried about the stigma, about what other people are going to think or what other people are going to say about them. And I tell my clients, people don't have to know if you don't tell them. So that is one of the fears that a lot of times people have, or what it will say about them, will they ever be able to rebuild? And because they're struggling with credit card payments and other debts, a lot of times they're not even saving for retirement. And they're really suffering because of that debt. A lot of people think that people fall into bankruptcy because they're just being grossly irresponsible. But what the truth is that people don't really know much about money. Financial literacy is extremely important, and a lot of people are lacking that. And I think that that is something that, just as a community at large, we can do a better job on.
That's so true. So that's so true. So with the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, pretty much is like a total liquidation. And Chapter 13, what's the difference?
So with the Chapter 13 difference, this is usually someone who's making above the median. And with this bankruptcy, you're on a court-sanctioned payment plan. It also benefits people who maybe their home is near foreclosure, they're going through the foreclosure process, and the bank is refusing to talk to them. It can help them save their home. Another thing in the city of Chicago, if you're struggling with a lot of traffic tickets, red light tickets, parking tickets, etc., this is a great option for you as well. Chapter.
So then how does this all tie into, or I should say, what should students know about bankruptcy and student loan debt?
One thing that students should know about bankruptcy and student loan debt is that student loan debt, for the most part, is not dischargeable generally in bankruptcy. So when they're thinking about what college to go to, and different packages they're receiving from schools, their financial aid package, they should keep that in mind. Because I see a lot of times different people for an undergraduate degree, they're going into maybe $30,000, $40,000, $60,000 worth of debt. They don't have a clear path or a clear idea of the type of job they want to do and how they're going to pay that off. And they can't discharge those debts in bankruptcy. They have to pay those debts off.
So that's why I wanted to really ask you, how did you know what you wanted to do at 19 and when you went to college and all those things? Because a lot of times the students don't have a sense of purpose or what they want to do when they get to college. And then as a result, they're accumulating debt and they don't even know what they want to do. So that's always, of course, the danger. As I always mention in my books, look at your income potential for the major that you major in. And a rule of thumb is usually take out as much debt as what you think your first year's salary would be, like for all 4 years.
I think that's a great rule of thumb. Another thing I would say to a lot of students is that they need to really think about looking at whatever scholarship opportunities are available to them. Different packages, maybe they're government scholarships, etc. Maybe there's opportunities within their school, high schools for dual enrollment classes, etc. Whatever they can do to bring the cost of tuition down. Then they could also look in-state tuition, because a lot of times the in-state tuition of their state may be extremely high, but the in-state tuition of another state may actually be lower. And that maybe if they sacrifice going and paying out-of-state tuition for 1 year, some schools have more leniency with the second and third and fourth year to take advantage of that in-state tuition, and that can help them out too.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I was going to say I just lost my train of thought. But that's a good point. If they go, you're saying possibly look into if they were to go out of state for the first year and then the second and third year, if they could get the in-state tuition if it's lower than what their current state tuition is. Maybe that could be an opportunity for them.
Because another thing I realized too is in Chicago where we are, is that there are a lot of schools within the area for in-state tuition or in the state of Illinois where the tuition in-state is like $15,000 to $20,000. Where I'm from, Florida, for a lot of schools, in-state tuition is only $6,000. So let's just say, for example, they paid, which is probably the cost of in-state tuition, about $20,000 to $25,000 for out-of-state tuition. They claim residency their second, third, and fourth year. Now they're at $6,000 for tuition.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting point. That's an interesting strategy that students can do too. Another thing I was going to say with the scholarships that you mentioned earlier, I think what a lot of students sometimes forget about is applying for some of the smaller scholarships. They think, oh, it's just 500, it's just 1,000, it's not going to get anywhere. But I always tell students, pennies add up to $1. Mm-hmm. And although you may need more of them, if you keep applying, then it could help to decrease the amount of debt, and you can go to school possibly without any debt.
And I think a lot of times with the smaller scholarships, they have more capacity to give more of them out. Because I had a few scholarships that were larger, but then I had a few scholarships that were smaller, like $1,000, $5,000. But at the end of the day, it just adds up. Right? And they're more willing to give you a $1,000 scholarship or a $500 scholarship, maybe than a $20,000, $25,000. Maybe they only have one recipient for that.
Right. So that's also a good point. So I always try to encourage students to do the whole scholarships and all that scholarships. And then if you do have to go to school, think about, income potential, what questions you should ask employers. And if you do have to take out debt, look at that income potential and your income trajectory in regards to the debt that you take out. So we know that student loan debt currently is $1.3 trillion. And some people think, oh, that's such a big number. That's, doesn't impact me as much. But how could student loan debt impact millennials in the next 5 to 10 years? Like the students who are graduating or getting ready to go to school now, we're already at $1.3 million. How do you see this impacting millennials in the future, even with trying to create a life, as we see some laws are changing with getting homes and just everything? So speak to that.
I think that a lot of millennials, especially millennials of color, is that, parents really stress them in, you need to go to school, you need to go to college, etc. Not really expressing to them how they're going to pay for it, right? And public versus private schools and the financial aspect of it. A lot of families are just happy to have maybe that first person to go to college. What people don't realize, they sign their name on the dotted line thinking that, either A, I'll figure it out later, or I'll just have this debt until I die, right? What the problem is that essentially what ends up happening is I see a lot of people not contributing to their retirement properly, not really thinking about retirement at all, because they're thinking and paying off this debt. Then another thing too is that not being able to qualify for a home because their income to debt ratio is just too high. I think that families need to really sit down and think about when they look at college, they need to also look at costs and do a really cost analysis breakdown and have some conversation. I know it can be difficult at first to understand what are you going to college for? It's not just about getting that college degree, but perhaps what do you want to do after college and the different income potentials of different fields.
Right. And you said something, what do you want to do after college? It's so much about college is a temporary situation. It's only for 4 years. You're still going to have life after college. So do you seek home ownership? Do you seek having children? Do you seek having a family? What type of impact would this debt then have on your family? Because if you're having all these kids, you can't have kids and then have debt and then have all these other bills just for a roof over your head. It's going to make you feel tight. So those are some things to think about. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom or something, are you able to live off the economic status of your husband? And is he able to provide for all you in the neighborhood, let's say, you want to live in? So those things all come into play. And then what you bring to the table, too, as you go to school and study things and debt and all that good stuff. So all those things come into play. People have to realize that colleges, I think for us, for people of color, college was pushed so much because there was a time when we couldn't get an education. So that's why it's so instilled, go to school, go to school, go to school, because of that. We couldn't get it at one point in time, especially being from the South. So I think that's where the value from education comes from. But I think now the conversation has to be more than just go to school, but also how do I go to school and be successful financially and really think about the financial implications of going to school. Like I was telling someone at work, if we are telling our low income first generation students to go to school, then what are we doing to also educate them on managing the money that they're going to begin to make? Because if you're low income first generation, 9 times out of 10, you never had money. That's why you qualify as low income first generation. So we're saying go to school so that you can have job stability, but we don't tell you what to do with the money once you get to school. So then you don't know how to save in a 401k. You don't even know what that is and why it's important for you to save for retirement. All you know is Social Security and Medicaid. So those are some of those conversations that we have to have, and it really starts off with before you go to school, like she said, with the college. Let's have a conversation and sit down and break this down and talk about life after college, so that we can make sure we're making a prudent decision at this time in our lives.
I think college counselors and families need to focus not only about getting to college and going to college, which is great, but then also speaking about how do you pay for college? What does the financial picture actually look like? I think it's important for students to try to go somewhere where you can get the best bang for your buck, so that you can make sure that you're not falling into that $1 trillion number, and not amassing a huge amount of debt, which does become a burden in your life. And you can't discharge that burden in bankruptcy.
Right. Now, is there a reason, I was asked this before, what is the actual reason why you can't discharge student loan debt, or why it's very hard to discharge?
The way Congress and the courts look at it, they really look at it as like, even if you were in a precarious kind of situation where a health situation, they look at it because you have college debt, even if you're in a wheelchair, or even if you had some sort of disability, you have a way to make some sort of income to pay that loan back.
Okay. So they're just saying like you will always be able to get some type of job.
Because you have that college experience, there's something you can do to earn income.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we're going to leave it right there. There's something you can return. All right. On that note, we're going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you so much, Magna, for being with me today. I look forward to all your success moving forward. And tell us again, how can we get in touch with you?
Okay, you can go to www.jurismalaw.com. If you're experiencing financial difficulties, I'll be more than happy to assist you.
And could you spell out Jurisma for us?
www.derismalaw.com.
All right, this has been Sheena Hogue with How to Get a Bachelor's Degree with Little to No Debt. Please like my page on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks.